Hello everyone, my name is Charles Frazier and welcome to my garden. And may I say it is wonderful to be back with you. It has been a few years now since I have been doing anything with Welcome to My Garden, and we have missed being with you and talking with you, not only as we are being filmed right now, but just also out in the community. I left here in 2022 and we are glad to be back this year in 2026. Now, as we think of the coming back, I was in northern Kentucky for these past few years up in the Boone, Kenton, Campbell areas, and we had just a great experience up there. Learned new things in gardening, both in vegetable gardening and also in flower gardening as well, as we're going to be talking about today. And then since I moved up there, I did not have a place of my own, but thankfully for the generosity of a fellow veteran gardener, Mr. John Walton, allowed me to grow vegetables and allowed me to grow flowers on his property, of which we're going to be showing you some of those flowers that I grew from last year. We are glad to be back, and also we are going to thank the community. The welcome back has been tremendous. I am so very thankful of the words that have been shared with us, welcoming us back to Marshall County. Glad to be back here, glad to be serving in a church at Altona Baptist Church now, and we just feel very, very blessed. But just kind of give you an idea today, we're going to be talking about dahlias. While I've been away, I've been growing dahlias, and it has been a challenge this year, but it has not been a challenge in the past, as we can show you some of those pictures. But we're going to get right to it, and so we look forward to talking to you more about growing the wonderful flower called dahlias. We're going to begin from last year. Now this is a box. Now it's been a little rough for the wear. It's a second year season of using this box, but inside this box I have my dahlia tubers that I stored last November. Let me just give you a little bit of a history lesson. This May I got out, got the gardens ready, and I started putting my tubers in the ground. Well, everything went good. I had probably 130 or 140 tubers that I planted in a well-draining area to grow my dahlias. Well, it was long about the middle of May, and the very next week it started to rain. It started to rain, and as you as well know, this year has been a very rainy season, and this is a downfall of dahlias. Their weakness is they cannot handle much rain. So with that in mind, those 130 or 40 tubers that I planted, they all rotted in the ground. I lost every one of them. And I says, well, that'll be okay. I'll wait till June. Well, June came along, and guess what? Was not able to get any tubers in the ground. I said, well, never fear, July, I will be planting tubers in July. Well, here a few weeks ago, on a Monday, I poured 2 inches of rain out of my gauge. And then a few days later, I poured 5 inches of rain out of my gauge. And before the weekend was over, I poured 2 more inches of rain. I could not believe it, folks. This year we have been inundated with rain, and it has cost a lot in the garden, in the vegetable garden, as well as in the flower gardens as well. We've pursued and with a few flowers, and they have done well, but we are still, as we are in near the end of July, that we are dealing with no tubers. And so today we're going to start another effort in trying to raise our dahlia tubers for this year. And so I'm going to pull this box off and just kind of, I pack these away, put these in peat moss. They are in peat moss, and that is a perfect way to store tubers. And let me just tell you, when you store them, you see they have begun to sprout. Okay, they have begun to sprout here in this, and we're going to deal with all this. I'm going to walk us through all this, tell you kind of what is going on. So this winter, I put these in peat moss. I dug all of these up, put them in the peat moss, and kept them in temperatures from 40 to 50 degrees. That is a good temperature as you do dahlia research on the internet. This is what you need to. Well, if it gets above, you say, well, what happens if it gets above 50 degrees? You know, I have some places that maybe a little bit above. Well, they come out of dormancy, and they start to sprout and things. And so this is kind of what we're dealing with. And I have several varieties that are here. Now, I don't know what that they have made it through the season, and so we're just going to kind of start digging in here and trying to find what we have. All right, I have one here that I am pulling out, and like I say, when I packed them away, of course I was moving back to Marshall County, so I didn't get to rinse them off like I normally would in there. Now this one here, you see there's a green tag on here. Whenever I dig them up, I have them all marked in my garden. And I will try to display this tag for you. And so whenever I dig them up in the fall, I will tag them on what variety that they are so that I can keep them in my records for the next year. And so we have, this one is called Spartacus plant. And so it's really called, it's called Bohemian Spartacus is the correct name. It has a beautiful, large kind of red crimson kind of a bloom, and it is one of my favorites. Well, needless to say, I have 75 of my favorites when it comes to that of the growing the dahlias. But as you see here, these are the sprouts, or as our dahlia farmers, we would say these are the eyes. They will grow from this. Now, you put the whole tuber in the ground. I remember when Mariana got married back in 2019, I bought dahlias, all right? And I didn't do any research. Why do I need to do research? I'll just do it myself. And I cut off all of these tubers. Well, I didn't have any dahlias because I did it all wrong. Well, you know what we say, experience is the very best teacher, is it not? Well, what this is, these tubers have a neck. And in that neck is where the eye or the bud is going to be coming from on this dahlia. And so as you look here, I've got a number of these that are there. But here's, I'm going to be thankful on this one. On some of these, I will show you today, I will be cutting them apart. But as you see here, there's a stem here, there is a stem here. And so as I work with that, I see there is movement that is there. And lo and behold, I have a tuber by itself that has two buds that are here. Now, it will feed itself from this, okay? It will feed itself from this. So we got this Bohemian Spartacus, we've got this one here, and then we also have this one here. And so I'm kind of looking at it. I'm like, am I going to be able to have anything else? A little bit concerned on trying to divide this one because it is so very close. But I am going to trim this one so that you know of what you can do with these. You see this here, it has already started to grow, and this is too long. I don't want this kind of length. And so I'm probably going to cut this back to about 1 inch. Just like that, and it will heal itself and it will grow. All right, so that looks pretty good. And also see, I've got these tubers here. There's enough food storage in there to get these tubers that are going, and so we're going to be planting these tubers right here. So I'm just gonna put these over here for right now. Always keep what variety that they are together so that you know. So I'm just going to put them over here in this bucket for right now. We'll trim these others up in just a moment. So, and like I say, we've already had an accident there. Here, as I put that tuber in there, guess what? It was rotten, so it fell off. Now it has nothing to feed itself with. So we've run into a problem with that one. But thankfully, I have more than one, and so we will be using the others that are there. All right, let's just go back to our peat moss box, and I'm going to see what else is in here so that we can dig out and look and see. All right, we're pulling a few out, and also as some of other dahlia growers will color code their colors that they are using this tape with, and like these are all kinds of different colors that you can purchase and things, and you may want to color code as you dig in the fall. You know, we have all of these nice bright colors. I have yellow, I have white that is over there. Here is another one that we have dug out. Now, like I say, this has been in storage since November, so it is kind of showing that it's dried up, but there is still that is life there. See, these sprouts here are still working. You say, well, what variety is this? This is called the Intrigue. The Intrigue, another one of my favorites. Hint, hint. No pun intended there. And so this is Intrigue, and so I have several. I have 2 good sprouts on this. I'm probably, just for the sake, since I'm so late in the season, I'm going to hold off from trying to split these because I want to keep these intact. So I can do a little bit of trimming on some things here. This old stem here I can cut away. This stem here I can cut away. That tuber there is not a good tuber, so I will remove it. So it'll be a little bit easier whenever I start putting them in when I begin to plant them. So that is an Intrigue. Here is another one, and this one is called Formby Alpine. Formby Alpine. It was very small, and I'm going to go ahead and this sprout here is very flimsy. I don't like that. I've got a good sprout right here, so I'm going to cut this one off. I will leave it a little bit. If it does grow, it will, but I'm going to depend on this one right here for that. So, so here's 3 different varieties. We got Intrigue, we got Formby Alpine, and we got Bohemian Spartacus. And so we're probably going to just look at that and go over here and see if we can get them into a pot and tell you a little bit about that as well. Normally, like I say, I love planting these in the soil in the garden, and you know, whenever I lived in northern Kentucky, I planted them out in the regular garden with my vegetables and things, and they did fine. But then also, you know, I was just trying to grow as many dahlias as I could, but then I also placed them in flower beds. And so I grew them around where we live there in northern Kentucky. I also grew them by the office and things. And I found out some things of what they could tolerate, what they could stand. Pretty well, dahlias can handle full sun, and that's not a problem. But then I also found they did quite well in partial shade. Now, they may not look as vigorous in partial shade as they do in the full sun, but maybe you live in a place where you don't have full sun and it is partial sun. Well, you can still grow some beautiful dahlias as well if it only gets 6 to 7 hours of daylight during the day, and maybe they're shaded in the afternoon. I found that out to be my friend as I was just looking for places and things, and I was able to continue growing tubers for the next year. That was my main concern, is that I didn't lose out on all these wonderful varieties that I've had. Well, we want to, and so with the problem that I have had with rain, I'm getting a little nervous. All right, here we are in the end of July, and I've got August, September, and October. All right, that's, say, 90 days. Let's talk about 90 days. For dahlias to grow and to develop new tubers, it takes them 90 days. Well, I'm kind of right into the crunch time in that growing season, because when frost hits, they will stop growing their tubers, and because as you well know, frost is very detrimental to a lot of our flowers and things that are on the outside. So I will have to work with these to make sure that they do not get frost bit, okay? And so that's why I'm putting them in pots. Some, as you do your research on dahlias, it is called pot tubers is basically what I'm going to be growing here, and that is fine. There's a lot of things that I can regulate. Now, I will have to water these and watch these intently to make sure that they are not getting too dry, and plus, once they start flowering out, they will show if they are needing some moisture, because they will begin to wilt. And long as you kind of stay on top of it, you'll be okay. If they wilt a little bit, water them well, and they will come back the very, very next day. So they're a little bit, is what I would say in preacher language, they're a little bit forgiving in regards to that. So we're going to look at this, and like I say, I am going to look here and go back and see what I have here. Here is the intrigue, all right? And this is pretty well as we think of how that they are growing here. I'm going to pull this off because I want to keep up with what this is. In fact, let's go ahead and just do a little something right now. This is called intrigue. So I'm going to take, this is what this is. This is an old mini blind. Do you remember the old metal mini blinds that we used to have back in the day? Well, I found some of these, and I found out they are great for marking my plants, marking my dahlias. And so I am going to write down, and in fact, this is not what I thought. Let me see what I've got here. All right, well, this will do. I was wanting one that had a little bit bigger felt tip than this. Okay, I'm writing the word intrigue on here. Okay, so that I will know what variety this is. Now, I will recognize it whenever it begins to flower. I said, oh yeah, that is a Bohemian Spartacus, no doubt, or that's a Formby's Alpine, or that is a Southern Belle, or all those. But if they don't have any flowers on them, I will not recognize, because all dahlias pretty well look the same for the most part. Now, there are some things that the stems are a little bit different on some. So I'm going to put that in there so that I remember which one that it is. And so then I'm going to take this, I'm just going to put it all in there. Remember, I'm dealing with late in the season. I'm a little bit concerned in things. And so I'm just going to place this down into this bucket, and I will try to, like so manner, put that in there. Now I'm going to cover, let me get some soil from over here. I'm going to cover this up. Now this is just a basic topsoil that I purchased, and it has a lot of sand in it, which is good. I found out last year I had a lot of sand that came from a river bottom that had been mixed with silt and things, and I was really worried of what it would produce, and it did quite well. It did quite well. So it was, when I bought this, I thought this will be okay. This will be okay. Okay. So on this intrigue, you see I've got 2 of these that are already there. Okay, now there were some others that were small in there. Now they will sprout on through. And so I will put this like this, and so that they will continue growing. I keep an eye out on these. What I like about these, you can keep up with them, all right? You know, last year I probably grew 60 or 70 of these in buckets, all right, just to make sure that I had plenty to do that. So I'm going to do this again. And this is the Formby's Alpine. Like I say, I do this in the beginning because if I do not, I will forget what I am working with. And it's quite easy to forget what you are working with, or it is very easy to get the tubers mixed up. All right, so this is Formby's Alpine, and so I see that I've got 2 little sprouts there, and like I say, I really wish the tubers were better, but we are dealing with end of season. We are dealing with the end of the season, so we have to be patient with that. So I'm going to put Formby's Alpine in there. I'm going to move this soil around, and I'm going to place that down in there, like so manner. Then I'm going to get some more soil and fill in around this. You say, well, how many inches of soil do you need? Well, in the garden, whenever I am planting in the garden, I like 3 or 4 inches above the tuber. 3 or 4 inches above the tuber. They're planted down in. I usually make a trench, and I will make that trench and I will place them down in there, and then I would like to mound up 3 or 4 inches of soil that is there so that they have room to grow, because they are tubers and you want them to be able to grow and make tubers. Now this one here, there's no visibility that is there, and I know that it is there, and it will be fine. It will be fine. It will grow. So that's on the Formby's Alpine. Okay. Now to the Bohemian Spartacus. First thing again, as a reminder, write which one it is, Bohemian Spartacus. And I will say, you know, I do have these plastic ones, but the reason why I like using the metal ones, and I know it is very hard to find a metal mini blind anymore, but a lot of times the ink will wash off the plastic, so you've got to keep up with that and make sure. That's why you would want something very, a large felt in, so that you can write on that. And of course this is a little bit smaller. A lot of times I will use a plastic stake about this size, and you can buy those at your garden centers and various things, but I do like the metal because it seems like the ink does work with the metal a little bit better, and so it is. So we've got Bohemian Spartacus, and so I'm just going to move some of this soil around. This pot here has a little bit more than what I'm accustomed to, but that's fine, that's fine. I'll just place a hole down in there, and then I'm just going to set that in there just like it is. All right, that's how that it grew. And there's, like I say, there's a bud there, there is a bud here, here, here. So I'm going to set that in there, down in there, as you can see, and then I'm going to cover it up. These little small roots like this, I don't mind removing them because they really are not essential to the plant. All right, so we have another one that is there. Okay, so right now we have 3 that we have put together: Bohemian Spartacus, Intrigue, and Formby's Alpine. And like I say, whenever you're growing these, be able to divide them, and that's probably what we're gonna come up back over to the other table and show you on how to divide these dahlias. All right, we're going to talk about dividing tubers, and like I say, this one here is the red cornel, and I put pretty red cornel. I have a couple of different kinds of red cornel, but this one was a pretty red one, so I made myself a personal note. And if you don't remember, here's also, if you don't remember what your dahlia is, and you get to the time and place of putting something on it, if you don't know what it is, just put a question mark. Just put a question mark, because later on you may say, well, yeah, that's the pretty red cornel. I know what that is, and you can fill it in later. Because believe me, if you grow as many dahlias as I have grown the last couple of years, I've lost out on a few what they are, and so I will put the question mark there and then try to figure them out. Hopefully I can recognize them whenever the flower, but if I cannot, they just remain a question mark. But so don't worry about that if you forget what variety that they are. Now dividing, we will divide these, and let me tell you, this will cause you some serious problems if you're not careful. You know, I've taken a clump like this, and I'm hoping to get 2 out of it right now, but sometimes because of what happens, your knife will slip in various things. You don't wind up with anything sometimes. Sad to say, that can happen. I'm not going to sanitize my tools on this because I have been growing these for 2 or 3 years and I've been pretty well disease resistant. So, but if you're growing tubers that you're not familiar with, you may want to dip this in alcohol and water and things and sterilize each time just to make sure you're not spreading any kind of disease. There are diseases with dahlias. Crown gall is one of the main ones. I remember I bought a dahlia tuber from a big box store and I was so excited and it was so pretty, but whenever I dug it up in the fall and wintered it over the spring, the next spring I had a serious disease and I threw the whole box away because I was afraid of spreading that. That's why you want to buy your dahlia tubers from reputable farms and things. And so many times if they are mass produced and sold in stores in mass production, sometimes you run that high risk of getting those diseases. So there are a number of reputable farms that you can purchase one. One that I purchased from is in the northwest called Swan Island, and they have a great variety to order from. So just a little bit of tidbit. All right, I'm looking at this. I see that I've got a nice one here. I've got a nice one here. I've got a nice one here that is connected to that tuber that I see. I look over here, and so, how in the world am I going to divide this? And it is, like you say, you just have to be very, very careful, be very, very gentle. I'm trying to separate this one by itself if I am lucky, but like I said, this can be a problem. Okay, now that wasn't too bad. I was able to separate this. Okay, now I'm going to trim this in a moment with my scissors because I don't want it that tall, and it pains me to cut this. It really, really does, but it is necessary for me to do that. So I will just cut that back, and so that I can just plant this on its own. Okay, so now, okay, you say, well, you've still got 4. And I see these 4, but then I also see, we would maybe call them little buttons that are there. And I'm like, well, maybe I can go again. So I'm going to try to cut again. All right, there's a button there that I'm going to try to avoid. There's a button on this side, and like I say, it gets very tricky when you start. Yep, I already made a mistake there, but that's all right. I already lost that tuber. See, you'll lose a ton of these, so just be prepared. That's just a part of growing these. So I have this nice little sprout that's happening here, and then also there's a little one growing right there that I will probably stand a better chance of growing and developing. And so, here we have. All right, so there's 2 red cornel. Well, is it possible? See, in that cutting that, I broke a nice tuber. So I don't know what I can do here, what I should do on that. You have to think about it, look at it several ways. All right. I see that I've got these 3. There's a button there. There's another button there. I'm just going to hold off because I'm afraid. Like I say, it's late in the season. Now, if it was not late in the season, I would probably try to divide this again. But since I lost that good tuber, I'm afraid, and it does have 3 tubers to grow from, and then this small one. Now, you can leave these in the ground if they are on, say, like the south side of the house and where the wind is kind of out of it. You can leave them. I had a few this year that I left and they sprouted and they came back. So just to let you know. So here I started with 1 clump. That was 1 clump that I grew, but now I have divided and I have 3 clumps. Some will say that you will need to cut these and let this area here heal over, all right? But if you're like me, I don't have that time. I'm running behind schedule right now. And so I have planted dozens of these fresh cuts, and they grew, and they grew. So it probably would be better if I did let them heal, but since I'm on a time crunch right now, I'm gonna go ahead and plant them. I also wanted to show you this hanging basket. Now, I bought this hanging basket back in the spring, and it was beautiful. Oh, it was springtime, and I mean, it was just covered in blooms, and it was wonderful, you know, and I brought it home. And like I say, and then I was out of town over a weekend and didn't get it watered and things. And so whenever I came back home, it was wilted, and I thought, what am I going to do? I hate that it didn't go through the weekend that well. And so what I did, I pruned it back, did a massive pruning on that. And because, like I said, well, I have 3 distinct flowers that are growing in here. There may be one more that I do not see that is blooming yet, but it was just outstanding. So since I have trimmed it back, it is flourishing again. And I've also been giving it some liquid fertilizer as well, and just trying to help it along. Now, while it doesn't look perfect right now, I have the rest of the summer and this fall that I'm going to let it grow back and enjoy it. A lot of people would just throw it in the trash immediately and says, well, I wasted my money. Well, like I say, we're gonna just continue working with this. And so if you have something that maybe doesn't look very well right now, do some serious pruning on it, because we have plenty of time for it to come back out and for it to flourish and to grow and be able to enjoy some beautiful flowers this fall before the frost occurs. We've been talking about dahlias quite a bit, and I know that's probably a lot of information to process at one particular time. But I wanted to come to the hydrangea that I have right here. Now, I have a number of hydrangeas. Hydrangeas are a wonderful plant to have. Now, this is a limelight hydrangea, but it is also a limelight hydrangea tree. The base of this is probably about that big around, okay? And it is kind of getting at the end of the blooming season, but I have probably already taken at least 80 blooms off of this hydrangea, and I have enjoyed them so very much this season. But I will pause and tell you that it has been a bad year for hydrangeas, and I have some that had 1 or 2 blooms on it. The reason why is, if you remember back in the spring, or before spring, you remember during the winter, whenever we have those weeks of 80 degrees out of the middle of nowhere, I mean, it was like we were living in Florida all of a sudden. Well, the hydrangea says, well, hey, this is great, this is wonderful, it's time for us to grow. And so they begin coming out of their dormant state, and they begin to grow. Well, as you well know, the frigid temperatures hit them, and it was very harmful for them. So this year I've had people says, my hydrangeas look awful, my hydrangeas look terrible. Well, the early season is what that has caused that. Now, this one here has done quite well, but it is I probably had 5 others that did not do very well, but this one did. So don't lose heart, you know, don't get upset and say, well, I'm just going to get rid of it, I'm going to take it out. Give it another season, and hopefully we will have a spring that will keep them from being harmed the way they were this year. But now this one here has been just great, outstanding. It has it has very large blooms that are there, and then it also I've had a number of very small blooms, and I've enjoyed the large and the small. Now, when it comes for the winter, I will trim all these back. After frost, when everything's kind of go into a dormant state, I will start working on these, getting rid of all these, and so it will grow fresh out and fresh new next year. And that's what limelight does. It grows off of the new plant that it grows, the stem that it grows for this year, it will produce on this by itself. Some don't. Some other varieties of hydrangea grows off of what we called old wood, but this grows off of new wood each and every year. But wanted to share that with you because I've had a lot of people ask me, my hydrangeas look awful this year. I'm ready to pull them up. Don't pull them up. Give them another year. Give them another 2 years, and I think you will be pleased. I hope that you've enjoyed our episode today of Welcome to My Garden. I know it's not as interesting as much as dealing with those dahlias, but we gave you some very, very important information if you ever choose to grow dahlias. And we will give you updates as we move throughout this fall of how these are doing. And you know, at this particular point, would I like to have some blooms? Yes, but I really want those tubers that I can work with growing next year. Also, just talking a little bit about hydrangeas, and because every year is not a blue ribbon year in growing flowers. Sometimes we take hits, sometimes we deal with a lot of problems that are there. Also, something else I'm going to be coming and talking to you about, I'm going to clean off the gardens that I've had in the spring and summer and get ready for our planting in August. And August is a great time to plant things like green beans and yellow squash, zucchini, and cucumbers and those things so that we can enjoy them before the frost. Remember, we're still in summertime, so things will be growing in the daytime and the nighttime as well. It's been a great blessing being back with you. Take care. God bless.